Set a button and tell all your friends. Like us on Facebook and tell the world about the station in Oklahoma letting freedom ring. With 100,000 watts of power, the new Freedom 96.9 and freedom969.com. Freedom
Weather.
Here's your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast. Today will be windy and humid with plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 91. Tonight, expect clear skies, breezy conditions, and humidity with a low of 73. Tomorrow will bring brilliant sunshine and gusty winds exceeding 40 miles per hour with a high of 92. Monday will be breezy with abundant sunshine and a high of 92. Tuesday will be sunny to partly cloudy with a chance of an afternoon thunderstorm and a high of 92. With your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
We interrupt our program with a special bulletin.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the speakers and other contributors. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of this station.
Broadcasting live from the command center of Freedom 96.9 in Oklahoma City, it's McRoof Fortifies, Oklahoma, saving lives, protecting property, fortifying Oklahoma one roof at a time. I'm Rick Allen Lippert here with Hague Certified Master Level Damage Inspector, Oklahoma Licensed Public Adjuster, Fortified Evaluator, and IBHS Fortified Roofing Contractor, Scott McCullum.
Good morning, sir.
Hello. Hague Certified Roofing Inspector Scotty McCullum is off today, and here in studio in Scotty's chair is Chris Meredith from Farmers Insurance, the government affairs guy. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
And joining us on the phone later will be Oklahoma Roofing Contractors Association Executive Director Avery Smith. We'll get more about Avery later and more about Chris in just a moment. Retro Radio Randy is running the show today. Now, we don't let him talk on the air, but he'll talk to you when you call 405-608-4377. We are live streaming today on the McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma YouTube channel.
We are?
Yeah, and
there we are.
Right
All
there.
Right.
You can also hear us on freedom969.com. We'll start as usual with our trivia question and other interesting tidbits, including the word of the week. The phone number to answer the trivia question or to just ask a question, 405-608-4377. But be quick about it because Avery will be using the one phone line in about 15 minutes. This is budget radio. 3 microphones, 1 phone line, and 2 Dixie cups and a string.
But an expensive producer host, you, Mr. Lippert.
That's right. That's right. And we'll have some After the Storm tips brought to you by Roof RX, and we'll wrap up with Dad's Wisdom. Coming back from breaks, we'll have some genuinely obscure historical trivia. Hey, guys, I always stop at neighborhood lemonade stands, and I did so again yesterday. Mm-hmm. These kids even had boxes of popcorn.
Oh, wow.
And when I opened my box of popcorn, there was a note from your lawyer, Scott, telling me to say that S&CM LLC, doing business as McRoof.us, legally operates under Oklahoma registration number 80000002, and that the registration applies to both residential and commercial roofing.
Hey,
Spooky.
Do you eat Cracker Jacks?
I like Cracker Jacks.
Man, if you ever get that message in a Cracker Jacks box, I'm quitting. That'll be too much for me.
Okay, so before we get into talking to Chris, we need to get our trivia question out there.
Well, and this trivia question relates to who our guest is this morning.
All right.
So anyway, all right. Which of the following are requirements, eligibility requirements, to be the insurance commissioner in the state of Oklahoma? Which of the following are? You have to be 25 years old. You have to be 5-year resident of Oklahoma. We're laughing about that. 5 years experience in administration, sales of an insurance, have no financial interest in any insurance company or agency. Your only relationship to insurance can be as a consumer in a transaction related to a policy, as a claimant under a policy.
So was
Which
that
of those
4 things? A, B, C, and D?
A, B, C, and D, or E, all of the above.
Or E, all of the above.
And I'm not allowed to answer that. Right?
Yeah, you're not. Well, first of all, we need to make sure that you know the answer to that. So.
Okay, so which of the following are the eligibility requirements to become Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner? A, at least 25 years old. B, 5-year resident of Oklahoma. C, 5 years in the insurance business. And D, no financial interest in the industry, or E, all of the above. Is that correct?
That's correct. You got it, man.
If you think you know the answer, call quickly right now, 405-608-4377. Don't dilly-dally on this because Avery's going to use the Dixie Cup and call in. 405-608-4377. The winner will get 2 free tickets to the last Carpenter Square Theater production of the season that opens in a couple of weeks.
Or a Lowe's gift card.
Or a $25 Lowe's gift card.
But your theater tickets are much more valuable.
That's
Absolutely.
$60 value.
There you go.
Okay, Scott, our word of the week.
Our word of the week, we're not doing a word of the week.
Okay,
today.
no word this week.
We don't have time for that. Our word of the week today is
Chris Meredith.
Those are our words of the week today. So, Chris Meredith, who is Chris Meredith? And why are you here? Why would we want you on a show like this?
I don't know why I'm here, to be honest with you. I look back on my life, and I'm like, how did I get into insurance? I thought about that on the way in, and really it all started at my dad's restaurant. I had just graduated. I had a degree in biology. Nobody's hiring biologists with bachelor's degrees at the time. So I'm just making pizzas for like a year. And our agent came visit us and told us about a big claim center they were building, and I should go check it out and see if they were hiring. So I did. And at the time I was studying bioterrorism preparedness at the University of Oklahoma.
Wow.
This is right after 9/11, and we were prepping for terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
That was the deal. And I don't know. I was just tired of being a broke college student. And I went up there, and I applied. I got in, and I liked it. So I stayed, and the rest is history, as they like to say.
So Chris, you're running for Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner. Tell us a little bit about why you would get into that mess. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it's a good question. But it does stem from my career. Kind of one of the first things I noticed, we had this program at my job where it was, what do you want it to be? And it was all about, hey, you're doing your job, and you see a problem, maybe a law or something that's keeping you from helping people. What would you want it to look like? What do you want your job to be? And one of the first things that popped up in my head, I'm working with customers trying to settle their total losses, and I'm sending a single mom who has one car paperwork on her total loss car. And I'm telling her, I'm like, I'm going to mail you this letter. I want you to go get it signed and notarized, and then mail it back to me, and then I'll mail you a check. And she's like, well, how am I supposed to do that? I don't have a car. How am I supposed to go get a notary? And I'm sitting there going, why do we need a notary? And this is, it doesn't make sense. And, I went to our government people at the time, our government affairs people, and I asked them, I said, why can we just get rid of this? Because we have email. We should be able to do this electronically, all this. And there were just laws on the books that were outdated. Mm-hmm. And we needed someone to go down and say, hey, these are all outdated. We're trying to get this where we can pay customers fast, and we just need to change these laws to get it done. That fast forward me into my career of just, it's kind of the old Ronald Reagan, as the government's not the solution, it is the problem. That's where, basically where my career really, to me, became fun, because I would go around the nation and find all these problems that were slowing us down, and they were keeping us from helping people. And there were simple things like that, like notaries and wet signatures versus electronic, things of this nature.
That just didn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense. And so I got into the government affairs part 10-plus years ago officially to help do that on the other side. So in the beginning, I was the business guy. Then I became the government affairs guy that kind of got the business in to talk to legislators about changing laws and kind of bringing things up to date. And that's kind of how I got into this.
So your position with Farmers Insurance, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and by the way, just so it's clear, I'm speaking for me, not for farmers at all. They're not. This is not. I'm not representing them here today. I'm representing myself. So anything I say is on me. But yeah. So say that question again. I'm sorry. I got.
So tell us a little bit about the context of what you do.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So my job is I represent the company to the legislatures and the lawmakers. Mm-hmm. And what I'm doing is I'm sitting back every year, like Oklahoma, we go into session, and I'm looking for, either I'm bringing ideas to them to change the laws to make things better, or I'm looking for laws that are, could possibly hurt the consumer or the business, hurt competition. And my job is to go in and kind of present our perspective on various issues that come up and help them make really, an educated decision on what they want to do at the legislature.
So in your role, should you be elected as the insurance commissioner, what do you see as the biggest issues that we're facing right now in Oklahoma?
Well, absolutely. Homeowners insurance affordability is my number one issue that I'm going to tackle.
Who's advocating for or protecting the interests of the Oklahoma consumers, homeowners?
Well, the department is supposed to be your primary backstop for people. Their job is to do consumer protection. In Oklahoma, it's a little different. We rely on the free market for pricing. So this is a little bit of a strange area, but you've got to. I don't know. You have to take a step back and kind of look at the market. That's where I bring in a little bit of a different experience than most people, is because I have a national view. Mm-hmm. I've been in legislatures from California to Florida, and so I see this from a different perspective than normal people.
So does it make sense that we pay what we pay for homeowners insurance in Oklahoma right now? Does that make sense to you? And I know you hear the same explanations that we all hear about the hail and the wind and the tornadoes and things like that. But we have neighbors to our north and our south that don't pay anywhere near as much as we pay for homeowners insurance.
I'll answer it this way. It does make sense when you look back and go, this is what's all baked into the cake. What doesn't make sense is allowing that to continue. I think we can take aggressive, focused action, and that's where I bring my advocacy in to address the issues. And you don't need price controls. You just need to get to the root of the problem.
We have to take a break now, Rick?
It is time to take a break.
Okay.
And with that, we'll be back in a flash. You're listening live on Saturday morning on Freedom 96.9 to McRoof Fortifies, Oklahoma. Scott McCullum is live here in studio with Chris Meredith. He's running for the State Insurance Commissioner. We are live streaming on freedom969.com and on our YouTube channel, McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma YouTube channel. We'll be back in a flash.
This is Chris Guanera, CEO of Blue Falcon Aerial. We're proud to partner with McRoof.us to enhance the Roof RX program. McRoof.us already has a trusted, proven system, and we're here to add an extra layer of precision with crystal clear drone imagery using the state-of-the-art Mavic 3 series. With our background in the surveying industry and as drone instructors at Francis Tuttle, we know accuracy. Our documentation supports McRoof's certified professionals so they can make the best recommendations for your roof, saving lives and protecting property, one roof at a time. Roof RX, where technology meets technical competence.
They deal with the insurance company for you, which is so nice and helpful.
One of the most important things that I prioritize is setting the right expectation, what they can expect from their insurance carrier, what ducks need to be lined up to make sure their project reaches the outcome that they desire.
I'm on the phone most of the day, talking with insurance companies, trying to resolve a claim that has not been paid correctly. We don't give up.
They were able to come out and give a full, in-depth inspection. That process ultimately led to a doubling of the claim.
He probably got me, at least on this roof, $50,000 more by my calculation than I would have gotten with the other roofers.
It goes far beyond what a normal roofing company would do. We're going to do it right.
McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma live on Freedom 96.9 here on Saturday morning. On this date, in 1862, slavery was outlawed in the U.S. territories. And on this date in 1865, you've heard of Juneteenth? Well, it actually was inspired by the act of Union General Gordon Granger on this date in 1865 when he notified the enslaved people in Galveston, Texas. And so that became Juneteenth. All right, we have been talking with Chris Meredith from Farmers Insurance. He's running for State Insurance Commissioner. And we have on the phone Avery Smith from the Oklahoma Roofing Contractors Association. Hello, Avery.
Good morning. How are y'all doing?
We're doing good, sir. How are you doing?
Great. Man, I can't complain. It's a beautiful morning, and let's get this fired up.
So we're sitting in here with Chris Meredith, our good friend, and wanted to talk a little bit. Chris, we talked about some of the issues that we're all battling right now in terms of the cost of homeowners insurance. And it's not just homeowners insurance, but generally that's the biggest issue that we've got right now for that consumer, that mother and father that are struggling to make the decisions of how they're going to spend that money. And we have people that are making decisions and buying insurance that's not really protecting them because they're dumbing it down to the place that they've stripped out all the coverages, built up huge deductibles and things just so they can afford to have insurance at all. So what do we do about that, Chris?
Yeah. First thing is you got to know your coverage, know what you're buying. I think that's a big issue, and you've got to shop around. I've had to do it myself, so it's not fun, but that's step number one. But as commissioner, I mean, kind of what we're talking to going into break is I'm a big free market person,
mm-hmm.
but I also know that sometimes markets break and they get sick, and you don't put in price controls. You don't become California. California is a complete disaster because they try to control prices artificially, and they just try to cap what you could do and do all this stuff, and that doesn't work. And like I was saying, having national perspective, it gives you what to do and what not to do, and what you can do is address the core of the issues, which is the cost drivers.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about a product and the costs that go into that product, and then someone charges a price because of the costs that are built in. Well, in Oklahoma, we've got two things. We've got costs that are driving up the price of the insurance, and then you've got risk. The risk is from the weather.
Mm-hmm.
So
can't do anything about that.
Can't do anything about the weather.
Nope.
Well, you can actually. You can fortify your home.
Well,
right?
We can't do anything about where we live, but we can certainly build better.
You have to be smarter about it. If you're going to build in a hail zone,
in
a place with severe convective storms and wind, you should probably build your home to withstand that to the best when we have the technologies available to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have a program in place that can help do that. And there's other ways to help do that through private funding that's happening all over the country. So it's all about taking these best practices. What did Florida do on litigation reform? What's Louisiana doing? What has Alabama done on fortified homes?
Mm-hmm.
What has Dallas and Louisiana done on funding fortified?
Right.
Through private funding. There's all kinds of things out there that we can do that works, that's shown it works in other places. We just got to bring it here. And that's going to take leadership, and it's going to take advocacy, because the legislature, there's a lot of good people over there. I know people like to complain about them and stuff, but they have a ton of stuff on their plate. And what we've got to do as commissioner, the biggest thing I want to do is bring this advocacy piece and really turn up the volume. Get our roofers, our agents, and our local communities, all the people involved in this process, let's get them all together as one and ask the legislator, work with them. You don't have to fight. This is a collaborative opportunity.
Right.
We just got to make sure we bring that focus to the situation and tell them we want it fixed and addressed. And that's what I want to do.
And the collaboration, that's really it. Avery, jump in here, bud. Tell us a little bit about ORCA. You and I have talked for the last year or so about building better and the building better practices, the systems roofs, the fortified roofs, and everything that we can do. And that's the charge that you're leading. as the executive director of Orca. Talk to us a little bit about all the things that have happened just in the last 6 or 8 months as respect.
You know, I was. Thanks again, Scott, for having me on. It's great to be on with both of you, and I appreciate you doing the radio show and your steadfast service to the industry. So thank you. You know, I was trying to think of a really good, or at least a applicable analogy to what we're dealing with in terms of Fortified. And, you know, I think what might be applicable, especially during this Thunder playoff run, is, you know, I think back to when I was a teenager and a young adult, and I think of the NBA, okay, and you guys can probably relate to this too, the National Basketball Association. Back then, you know, you had your traditional big man in the middle, right? You had a big lumbering center that was going to clog up the lane, play defense. And then all of a sudden in the mid-2000s, along comes a team called the Golden State Warriors, and they start chucking up threes. And the traditionalists were like, man, you can't do that. I mean, that's disruptive. You know, we've never done it that way, right? Well, all of a sudden that takes over the league, but it took time, right? It didn't happen in 1 year. They saw the success of the Golden State Warriors, and what did other teams start to do? They started to get a bunch of perimeter shooters. And then 10 years later, here we are. And now guess what? It's now going back the other way, playing defense, you know? So it's just, I think it's a mentality shift. It's adoption. And I think any industry as its core, whether it's professional sports or construction, I think eventually becomes a copycat industry, because you see what works, you scoff at it, and there's always early adopters, there's skeptics, but eventually when there's no other choice, it becomes the rule. And so Orca has been behind, you know, a multiple prong approach, because this isn't going to happen overnight, but we've got to start changing the mentality and having that conversation. And, you know, we talk about the challenges with insurance, and I'm not kidding you, probably every day now, because in addition to representing roofing contractors, we do serve as a resource for homeowners. And I get calls almost every day from a homeowner with a terrible story. And it's just shocking to me how poor, not only, I think the industry, we as an industry have done a poor job of educating the public on what the due diligence that they should perform, what they should expect, the questions they should ask, the research they should do. Because you hear these folks talk about their story, and I think to myself, man, how could you possibly not, you know, do a little bit of digging here to, you know, before you sign a contract with that contractor and hand over that check. It's someone who's not registered, but they were going to eat my deductible. You know, it's all the things that we hear and all the red flags that we as in the industry see and hear. And it's just got to be an education and a mind shift change.
Well, you know, and that's the reason we're here, is we try to educate people every week about what's going on in the insurance world, what's going on with the policy forms, the endorsements that we see, the actual practices in the field of the inspectors and the adjusters. We don't see many adjusters in the field anymore. We mostly get fee inspectors or independent adjusters from time to time. But we let people know what they're up against in that regard. And we tell people that the reason that we start where we start, with a qualified inspection of your roof surface and a review of your insurance contract, because if I don't know that you have a $23,000 deductible, what am I doing suggesting to you that you need to file an insurance claim? I need to know what the financial parameters of your contract are before I ever counsel you as to what I think might be in your best interest. So that's really where we're at in terms of education and things in the process. But Avery, you know as well as I do that most of the roofing industry does not do what a few of us do. Most of the roofing industry sells one thing. They sell a dumbed-down, commoditized asphalt shingle roof. They do not build into any value in terms of systems or warranties or performance. We've done what we've always done. We've gotten what we've always gotten. The insurance companies have gotten their brains beat out with wind and hail claims, and it's got to stop. It cannot continue. The insurance companies will ultimately dictate that. So
We'll carry that into the next segment.
Yeah, you got the message.
Stay with us, Avery. You're listening to McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma on Freedom 96.9. You can catch us on our YouTube channel and also on freedom969.com.
Knowledge is power. Combine that with 100,000 watts of power, and you've got the most important talk station in Oklahoma. We're the new Freedom 96.9 and freedom969.com. Freedom
weather. Here's your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast. Today will be windy and humid with plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 91. Tonight, expect clear skies, breezy conditions, and humidity with a low of 73. Tomorrow will bring brilliant sunshine and gusty winds exceeding 40 miles per hour with a high of 92. Monday will be breezy with abundant sunshine and a high of 92. Tuesday will be sunny to partly cloudy with a chance of an afternoon thunderstorm and a high of 92. With your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
We interrupt our program with a special bulletin.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the speakers and other contributors. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of this station.
McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma back on the air for the second half of today's live broadcast from the command center of Freedom 96.9. Hey, on this date in 1867, the first running of the Belmont Stakes. 1867. On this date in 1903, the New York Central Railroad began building Grand Central Terminal. Grand Central Terminal, which is really not Grand Central Station, it's Grand Central Terminal because that's
what a beautiful.
Oh, golly, yes. And thank goodness Jackie Onassis led the charge to renovate and remodel the place. Okay, live in studio, Scott McCullum and Chris Meredith. Chris is running for State Insurance Commissioner. And on the phone, Oklahoma Roofing Contractors Association Executive Director Avery Smith.
So, Avery, I'm going to let you and Chris talk a couple of minutes. So you guys talk about how you're going to collaborate together to push this agenda.
Well, you know, one of the things that's happened over the last almost year and a half since I came on with Orca is that, you know, these conversations and these changes in the industry can happen quicker than you think. And it's done through relationships. It's done through putting competent, experienced people together in a room to figure out problems. And Scott, you think about where Orca was, let's just say in March of 2024, okay? Orca looked a little bit different in March of 2024 than it does today. And you fast forward today, and we've gotten a bill passed to require a license/endorsement for residential roofing. We were able to successfully work with the insurance industry.
Which is to benefit consumers of Oklahoma.
Yes, and that was our biggest educational piece working with legislators, was to say, hey, this isn't to benefit the industry in terms of, making more money or, making it, easier to do business. No, in fact, we put some burdens on ourselves, some burdens on our own industry to benefit homeowners. Mm-hmm. And the legislature saw that and saw through some of the noise, and we've passed this bill overwhelmingly. So we played defense. I call it defense, but really we worked with the insurance industry on another bill, 1084, and we were able to come to a really good compromise to protect the rights of our contractors while also looking out for the interest of the insurance carriers. And we've got to work together. So, Chris, you might kind of expand on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an amazing thought. You don't have to pass a law for everything.
Right.
The laws you did work on were great, but just us sitting down together and coming up with solutions and talking and then going back to our own industries can make a huge difference without having to pass any laws. And
I'll give Representative. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris. I thought you were done.
More conversations we have, the better. I've as I'm out on the campaign trail, I'm talking to roofers, and I'm getting feedback from them, and I'm giving them your information. I'm like, are you working with Orca on this type of deal? Or, oh yeah, So it's a good conversation to just keep having.
I agree, and I have to give some props to Representative Mark Tedford. 1084 was a bill that he co-authored, and he listened. He listened to our industry. He met with us. He took our comments and our suggestions under advisement, and we were able to come to a compromise. So that's how it's done, and ultimately it benefits. We have to put at the heart, and I've been saying this since I came on at Orca, it's got to be good for Oklahoma and Oklahomans. It's not just about what's good for the roofing industry. So that's really how we approach any one of these issues. And I agree wholeheartedly with you. We don't need a million new laws. We just need to sit down and figure out how to even utilize the existing laws and follow the existing laws before creating new ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think the common sense approach to it is to, you look at what the issues are and you look at all the different parties who are involved in those issues, and you sit everybody down and you work your way through what the ultimate solutions can be. The one thing that we can all agree on is that if we live in the Hail Belt and Tornado Alley, we need to be building more resilient structures. And Avery, for you, Chris, for me, this starts with roofs. It's to me, it's not just about fortified roof. Fortified roof is the entree into everything that fortified brings to play for consumers. And that's fortified roof, and it's fortified home at different levels. It's fortified multifamily, it's fortified commercial, and it's fortified wildfire readiness. And these are all things that we talk about a megaphone, we talk about amplification, we talk about messaging. When we can have the OML, and we can have Orca, and we can have OID, and we can have CIB, and we can have the various communities like Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Oklahoma City has just decided they're going to start permitting re-roofs. That's a big step in the right direction to protect consumers, okay? And I think it will end up in a better product going on the roofs in Oklahoma City. It's not going to change things overnight, but ultimately it will make significant strides. I believe that
Scott,
Tulsa will
those
fall
are great
in.
Points.
Go ahead, Avery.
Well, you bring up all those three-letter agencies and the letter agencies among us. And, I think back over the last year and a half, how we really had little to no relationship with any one of those entities. And all of a sudden, we are communicating with the Oklahoma Municipal League. All of a sudden, we have the city of OKC proactively reaching out to Orca to get our input. All of a sudden, I have legislators calling me on my cell phone to ask about certain bills and what the interpretation is. That was not happening before. And so now we're all talking. We're getting all these pieces together. It's like a chessboard. And the end game is that we are working together for the betterment of the industry. And one other thing, I know, Scott, you know where I come from as far as the industry that I spent quite a few years in before this one, oil and gas. And I think back to the old days of oil and gas, where you had a spindle top and you drilled a hole and you got oil out of the ground. Okay, that it was pretty, it was more complicated than that, but it was pretty simple. And you fast forward to now, and what it takes to extract those natural resources from the ground, it took technology, right?
Right.
And again, we're talking about adoption. And Oklahoma, in the energy industry, became an energy technology state, not just an energy state, but an energy technology state. And I really see Oklahoma as becoming not a roofing state, but a roofing technology state, where we can develop things because of the harsh extremes that we have to go through here. Why not capitalize on that to build a better industry through technology and adopt that technology?
Well, and you talk about the conversations and things, and as you said, you're getting calls from all kinds of different places that you've never gotten calls before. And I have opportunities. I got a call from California yesterday afternoon from an architect who is building a resiliency network, who had heard about me and wanted to know what we were doing here in Oklahoma and wanted to talk about Fortified and some different things like that. And so it is. We put these concepts out, and we just hope that if we say something to a group of people, there's one person in that group that takes that and does something with it. And that's the group of people that we want to really be empowered with the conversations that we have, though, unfortunately. Those are the consumers of the state of Oklahoma. Those are the people that we need to figure out the ways to deliver that messaging, package it in such a way that it's meaningful to them, it's impactful to them, and they can clearly see that they have to quit looking at everything that they do on a roof or in a structure as a cost, and they have to start looking at it as an investment that is saving lives and protecting property on down the road, and seeing that that is something that is going to pay dividends for a very, very long time in the future. We know that fortified roofs do that. We can build roofs. I have built roofs in Oklahoma essentially since 2018 that have never had to be replaced for hail. They've been through 5 3/4 inch hail in Ada, Oklahoma, and have never had to have a roof replaced for hail damage. It can be done. So when someone says, why do we get what we get? It's because the insurance restoration and roofing industries dumb it down, commoditize it, sell one thing, and that one thing is the lowest price because that's all they know how to sell. That is not serving the consumers of Oklahoma. It's going to perpetuate and deepen the problem, and ultimately insurance companies will either restrict or limit to a degree that they're not right now, exclude roofs, or tell you they're just not going to insure you. So we have to start making those changes, and we have to let it play its way through. I'm having conversations with home builders and architects right now about how we design better, how we build better, how we start those conversations before we ever get a plan finalized with consumers, for instance, with an architect. Let's start having conversations about resiliency and what you can do to build better on the front end before you actually get that plan finalized. So that's where we need to go with this, and that's going to move the pendulum in terms of insurance companies' loss ratios. And when you start to affect the losses, you're also affecting something else, Chris. You're affecting their expenses as well. And both of those are very, very important to the insurance companies.
Let me throw this out just so everyone understands my thought process on this. As insurance commissioner, it is in my mind, I am representing the citizens of Oklahoma, but I'm also thinking of it from like the citizen being in the middle, and then all of these services, roofing, insurance, all those in kind of around that consumer. How do we work together? And I want to bring everyone together so we're all focused on helping that person in the middle. That's what we're here for.
I agree. And I think, we've got to have some type of campaign for that, for homeowner education. I think it's vital. it's got to be funded. We've got to figure out a way to fund it. But to me, our homeowners are just not getting reached. There's no reach for the homeowners. And so we've got to provide them some more resources. I think Orca is a big part of that. But, again, like anything else in life and in business, it takes money to do things. And, and we've got the will. And I'm pretty confident the three of us, if we had 2 hours in a room, we could figure out every problem there is. Do you guys agree on that?
Well, hey, Avery, we're going to have to take a break, buddy. We're going to let you go. I appreciate you so much for joining us this morning. We're going to let Chris kind of wrap this up and take us up to the end of the show. And we appreciate you being here this morning.
My pleasure.
Have a great weekend, buddy.
Take care.
Thank you,
right.
Avery
Bye-bye.
Smith, Executive Director of the Oklahoma Roofing Contractors Association. We'll be back after these important words. I want to remind you our trivia question is out there. What are the eligibility requirements for state insurance commissioner? A, 25 years old or more. B, a 5-year resident at least of Oklahoma. C, at least a 5 years experience in the insurance industry. D, no financial interest in the industry. Or E, all of the above. 405-608-4377. The Dixie Cup is now open. Homer Stacy was a wholesome, good American kid from Texas. At the age of 18, he enlisted in the United States Army Horse Cavalry and was stationed at Fort Bliss. Homer was fascinated with aircraft, so he went to flight school and became an Army Air Corps pilot. Homer Stacy flew a Convair B-24 Liberator, the Yankee Doodle Dandy, on November 11, 1943, when his crew, along with 31 other bombers, destroyed a ball-bearing plant in occupied France. On a return trip, a mechanical failure caused the Yankee Doodle Dandy to drop out of formation, leaving it vulnerable, and shortly thereafter, 7 German Me-109s shot down the plane near Andano, Italy. 4 crew members were killed on board, the others parachuted. 1 was captured and taken prisoner. Homer was among the remaining 5 who made it to Switzerland and returned to duty. Homer Stacy survived World War II, the Korean War, and retired after 23 years of service with many awards and commendations, including the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Purple Heart, and multiple air medals. Homer Stacy McCollum, Scott McCollum's dad. Scott McCollum is McRoof. McRoof.us is owned and operated by the McCollum family, an honorable, trustworthy red, white, and blue family. If you want to fortify your property, call McRoof.us at 405-877-4663. Ask for your complimentary roof inspection performed by a credentialed Hague residential inspector. McRoof.us, saving lives and protecting property by fortifying Oklahoma, one roof at a time. McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma back on the air for the final segment of today's live broadcast on Freedom 96.9. On this date in 1931, the first photoelectric cell was installed commercially in West Haven, Connecticut. You know, lights on, lights off, dusk to dawn. That technology goes back to 1931. 1934, this is a date that Retro Radio Randy and I know deeply. It is the birth of the Federal Communications Commission.
You remember that day, Randy?
The government agency that regulates what you're listening to right now,
funny.
Live over-the-air broadcasting.
Funny.
Okay, so we're live in studio with Scott McCollum of McRoof and Chris Meredith, who is running for State Insurance Commissioner. Now, before I turn it back over to you guys, 2 things. Chris, you mentioned earlier that you got into the government side of this with farmers because of an experience with a policyholder who couldn't drive to get a notarized signature because their car was totaled. Were you able to get that law changed?
Yeah, we did get it changed. That was one of, I think, 3 or 4 different changes we had to make. But it takes effort to do that. You got to bring everyone together, kind of get agreement on it. I was thinking about all the different pieces we did. I mean, you got to work with the banks. credit unions. There's all
Right.
kinds of
Yeah,
stuff behind
yeah.
the
Yeah.
scenes.
Layers.
You think it's really easy, just remove the
Peel
notary.
that
well,
onion.
everyone has a problem with it. It's
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got to sit down with everybody before you get into the process at the
Yeah.
legislature.
Sure.
And make sure you got everyone taken care of.
All
And-
the
and
I's
that
are
can be
crossed
done.
and the T's are dotted.
It can be done in a friendly. You don't have to fight over it. Just
Yeah.
come together and come up with a solution.
Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to toss out here, you guys are talking about building the way it's always been done and the different levels of quality. And it occurred to me that we're talking about the Three Little Pigs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That the
you are.
weather in Oklahoma
Absolutely
is
you
the
are.
big
I
bad
like that.
wolf.
Absolutely, you are. Yeah. I like. Hey,
I
think
really
there-
like that.
I think there's something
I'm
there,
stunned.
Chris. I think we can work with that.
You may have that idea.
Okay, thank you very much. So Chris was talking with Avery. We were talking about, serving those people in the middle, serving the consumers, everybody on the outside in the industries, the insurance, the restoration, the roofers, the contractors, everybody serving an end user. And this is something that I talk about all the time. We talk about it in my team. We talk about it in the organization. We don't sell roofs. We solve problems, okay? We save lives, and we protect property. That's what we do. Everybody in that outer circle, Chris, if we all adopted the attitude of what are we really here for? We're here to save lives and protect property and serve this constituency, this consumer. I think we can get where we need to go. It just we have to put our knives and guns away, and we need to quit, throwing people under the bus and blaming them. We need to assume the responsibility for the part that our industries or our segments play in the issues and the problems. And let's come up with what the solutions are and move forward. I think Chris seems like my daddy's saying, the two most uncommon things in the world, common sense and common courtesy. And I'll just tell you, folks, Chris Meredith seems like a very common sense man to me, and that's appealing to me, Chris.
Yeah, I just love people, really. I mean, and it just happens to be I'm in insurance, and I've seen how when you're not talking, you're dehumanizing each other. The roofers did this, the body shops did that, or the insurance companies. Well, when it becomes Scott and Chris, and you sit down at a table and you know each other and you start talking, it brings that down to where you can connect and start solving problems for people. And that's really that's step one. We've got to come together, all these different service providers that are helping, supposed to be helping customers. I mean, that's why I fell in love with insurance. I fell in love with insurance in 2013. This is about 10 years after I had started. This was my first year in government affairs, and the Moore tornado happened within a few months. And I'm out there on the ground the next day looking at this damage, and people are walking around, and we're just handing out water bottles. We're trying to find our customers' houses, which is, it looks like a nuclear bomb went off.
Right.
And people are coming out. They have nothing. They barely have any clothes on. They're soaked. And, we're out there within 6 days. We had paid 90% of our customers and got them into temporary housing, got them money so they could go buy new clothes. We're feeding people. We fed 600,000 pounds of meat through our barbecue relief program. And I was like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is where insurance comes in and really saves, helps people get back on their feet.
And as much as those people needed their claims to be paid, what they really needed was that human connection, that empathy, that compassion. That's what they needed first and foremost, and that's where we have to serve.
That's exactly right. And, when we come together around that idea, I think we can really make a difference. For me, I'm not a politician. I'm a business guy. I'm a problem solver, and I've been inside the system, and it's just so glaringly obvious. I'm like, I know what we need to do to fix this. And it starts with coming together, but then, just boil it down and see what works across the country. I mean, we've seen the reforms that Florida has done, has dropped rates, and there's even more to come, if you give it time. Alabama's shown us the way with the Fortified program.
Absolutely.
So let's get it, let's put this thing. Oklahoma's, we've done some things. We've done some good things. I worked on the discount for the Fortified program. I don't know. It's been like 8 years, and then now we had the grant program. My only problem is I wish it would have been done faster, and that's what I want to bring is this. Bring my energy. I hope you can feel it, but I want to bring that energy in, get intensely focused, and get everyone together, and let's advocate and get things done that we know works.
Chris, we got a couple minutes. A couple things I want to ask you about. One is we talk a lot about the claims handling and some of the issues and things that are going on right now. You've got some ideas about a little bit of transparency or something that you might want to do as an insurance commissioner. Tell me about that.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So working in claims for 10 years, I understand how it works. I understand how, when you get Department of Insurance complaints as a claims handler, how that affects your job performance and things of that nature. And companies look at that stuff very seriously. So why not be transparent? I'm an old football player. There's nothing better to me than a scoreboard. So if you can be more transparent and say, there's this many complaints coming in for this company, and you can just show it to people, because that's a big deal. When you go buy a product, this insurance product, it's really easy to find, like buy a cup of coffee, you know what you're getting. You know the taste, you know the brands. Insurance, you don't necessarily know until you have a claim. You
find out what you're going to get when you get what you're going to get.
Everyone, I hear that all the time. I'm gonna switch companies to this one because it's cheaper. Well, what are you getting? What kind of claims process are you getting? No
concept.
So I think that would be a big service to people is if
Absolutely.
they can kind of see that. And if they're seeing a bunch of complaints come in on a company for claims-related issues, it'll give them some more information to deal with. And to me, that's going to be the claims side, the claims handling side has got to be. We've got to look at that really closely and make sure people are getting what they pay for.
And then the second thing is the discount structures and things. I know that a lot of the companies have actually done away with their Class 4 discounts or toned down their Class 4 discounts. That seems like almost a disincentive in some ways. And then I know that I saw a fortified high wind and hail designated roof discount from an insurance company in Oklahoma yesterday, 12%. That just doesn't make any sense at all to me. If the companies want fortified, if they want resilient roofs and resilient construction, they're going to have to reward the people who are willing to invest in that. And a 12% discount on a fortified roof, that's not even equal to the old Class 4 discounts. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and that's a big deal for me is to bring and get commitments from them to the fortified program and the resiliency in general. I mean, we need to expand that more and more. I don't know that mandating things. I don't like to mandate things, but we can definitely look at data. And as an insurance department, we can look at their data and see what they're doing with to incentivize more resilient construction. So.
And I know we've only got a few seconds left, but is there anything that we can do about the muddy waters where the insurance companies are sending out? They're not sending out adjusters. They're sending out inspectors, fee inspectors, and then they're dumbing down the information that goes back to a desk adjuster who has never seen that roof or has never seen that property is making decisions about what is and is not going to be paid for. That just does not seem like what an insured has purchased when they bought that insurance contract.
Yeah, I think we need to take a real close look at those types of things because I'm fully aware. I know how claims adjusters are and how they get overwhelmed with volume sometimes. And that, when you're overwhelmed with volume, you can't do as good a job. So that we got to look closely at that.
How would you like to sum things up, Chris?
Oh, well, for me, I want Oklahoma families to be able to afford and protect what they've built with their homes. The home is so important. I'm a conservative leader. I want to do some serious reform and fast and focused. Consumer protection is my ultimate goal. And, we want to fix insurance from the inside out.
Thank you, Chris Meredith.
Thanks,
Hey, I
Chris.
got to get this in really quickly. S&CM LLC, doing business as McRoof.us, legally operates under Oklahoma registration number 800000002, and that the registration applies to both residential and commercial roofing. All right, so Scott McCullum, Dad's Wisdom.
Work well done is its own reward.
All right, thank you, Chris Meredith. from Farmers Insurance Government Affairs, but here running for State Insurance Commissioner. Hey, the eligibility requirements, is it safe to say it's all of the above?
It is all of those.
You have to be at least 25 years old. You got to live here 5 years, be in the industry 5 years, can't have any financial interest in the industry.
And the reason we laughed about that living here for 5 years is because that's kind of subject to some people's definition.
Is it consecutive? We got to go. We're gone. We'll be here next week.
KQOP Enid, Oklahoma City. Freedom is our name. The new voice of Oklahoma. We're Talk Radio.